The average family in this country hands over more than $400 a month to the utility companies, the power company, the water company, the gas company, the sewer. $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a year, every year, for as long as you own that house, going straight out the door to strangers. And on top of all that, most folks are paying a mortgage besides on a house that cost them a down payment of $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 just to get the key in the door. Now I want you to sit with a number. There are families right now living on their own land in their own small home who pay no power bill, no water bill, no gas bill, no sewer bill, none of it, and who set the whole thing up, land and all, for less than what their neighbors paid just as a down payment on a mortgage, about $25,000. Land, shelter, water, power, heat, sanitation, and a garden, paid once, and never a utility bill again. My name is Elias Yoder. I am Amish, and I farm here in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and my family has lived free of those bills for over 100 years. Not because we are clever, but because we simply never hooked into the systems that send them. Today I'm not going to show you my grandfather's way exactly. I'm going to walk you through how a person in the modern world with modern tools can put together the same independence my family has always had. The 5 things a home actually needs, and roughly what each one costs. And I'm going to be honest with you the whole way through, including about where that $25,000 number holds up and where it does not, because there is a great deal of foolishness sold about this, and I would rather you trust me than be dazzled by me. 5 systems: shelter, water, power, heat and cooking, and food. Let me take them one at a time. Stay with me. But first, the honest word about that number, because I will not let it sit there glowing without telling you the truth underneath it. $25,000 for the whole thing, land included, is real, but it leans heavily on one thing: the price of land where you are. Out in the open country, in the rural parts of this nation, you can still buy a few acres for a few $1,000s an acre, and the number works. In the crowded, expensive parts of the country, the land alone will cost you many times that, and the number does not work there, and I will not pretend that it does. So the first piece of honesty is this. This is a rural plan. It is for the person willing to go where land is cheap and live simply. If that is you, the number is real. If you are set on staying close to the city, the land alone will break the budget, and that is just the plain truth of it. And the second honest word: $25,000 is for a modest setup. A small home, a small power system, simple water, simple sanitation. It is enough to live well and to live free. It is not a big house with every comfort running at once, modest and free, or grand and in debt. That is the trade, and the old people always chose modest and free. With that said honestly, let me show you the 5 systems. The first system is shelter, and the whole trick of it is to start small and not to borrow. The families who do this do not build a great house up from the ground to start. They start with the simplest, dry, warm place they can, and they grow from there, paying as they go, never once borrowing. Many start with nothing more than a good canvas tent, a proper heavy wall tent, the kind that stands for years, that you can stand up inside and put a small stove into. A good one runs a few $1,000s or less, and it puts a roof over your head in a single day, so you can live on your land while you build. Then, for a permanent little home, the clever modern move is to buy a ready-built shed or cabin shell. There are builders all over the country, including plain living Mennonite builders down south and elsewhere, folks not so far different from my own people, who build sturdy little cabin shells and haul them right out to your land on a trailer and set them down finished on the outside. A small one, say 10 foot by 20, runs somewhere around $6,000 to $10,000 delivered. You finish the inside yourself, the insulation, the floor, the walls, over time as you are able. 200 square feet sounds small, and it is, but a family that keeps its needs simple lives very comfortably in a tight, well-built, well-insulated little home, and there is no mortgage on it and no banker holding the deed. That is your shelter. A few thousand for a tent to start, 6 to 10 for the little cabin shell, and already you have a home paid for, free and clear. The second system is water, and you catch it right out of the sky for almost nothing. I have spoken before on this channel about catching rainwater, and it is the very heart of water independence. The rain that falls on your roof is yours, free, and a surprising amount of it. A good metal roof, and this is exactly why these little cabins with their tin roofs suit it so well, sheds clean water you can catch in tanks. You run a gutter along the low edge of the roof down into big food-grade tanks, the kind they call IBC totes, a couple 100 gallons each that you can buy used for $150 or so a piece. But here's the one detail most folks miss, and it is the whole difference between clean water and foul water, the first flush. When the rain first begins, it washes all the dust and the leaves and the bird droppings off your roof, and you do not want that first dirty water in your tank. So you build what they call a first flush diverter, and it is simple. A length of pipe that fills up first and catches that first dirty rush, and once it is full, a little floating ball seals it off, and the clean water that comes after flows on past it into your tanks. A few dollars of pipe. That first flush trick is what makes roof water safe to store. Then you run it through a proper filter before you drink it, and you have all the water you need, free, falling out of the sky. The whole water system, the gutters, a couple of tanks, the first flush pipe, and a filter, runs you somewhere in the few hundreds up to $1,000. And after that, your water bill is the rain, and the rain sends no bill. The third system is power, and you already know my feelings on this one. I have shown you the off-grid solar setup before. The panel, the charge controller, the battery, the small inverter. For a whole small home, rather than just the one freezer, you simply scale it up. Several panels, a bigger bank of batteries, an inverter big enough to run your lights, your tools, a small refrigerator, a fan, the charging of your small things. A solar setup sized for a small cabin like this runs somewhere between $3,000 and $6,000 for a good one. And it is the same simple idea every time. Catch the free sun, store it in your own batteries, use it on your own land, with no wire running back to the power company. Now here's the honest part about power that nobody likes to hear, and I'm going to tell you anyway, because it will save you from a costly mistake. Making light and running small things, that is easy and it is cheap. Your lights, your radio, your tools, a small cooler, a modest solar setup handles all of that just fine. But heating and cooling, making heat with electricity, or running an air conditioner, eats more power than almost anything there is. A single electric space heater can drain a good battery in half an hour. I have seen the figures and they are sobering. That one little heater pulls as much as your lights and your tools and your refrigerator all put together, many times over. So the rule, the honest rule, is this: do not try to make heat or cold with your precious solar electricity. Heat with fire and cool with the earth. Use the sun's electricity for the light work, the lights, and the little things, and you can live very well on a modest, affordable system. Try to run a space heater or an air conditioner off it, and you will need a system 5 times the size and 5 times the cost, and you will still come up short. Know what electricity is good for and what it is not. That one piece of honesty alone saves people thousands. The fourth system is heat and cooking, and this is where you go right back to fire and to the old ways. For heat, you do exactly what my people have always done and what I have shown you before: a small wood stove. A good small wood stove with its pipe installed right runs somewhere between $1,000 and a few $1,000s, and it will heat a small, well-insulated cabin all winter long on wood you can often gather or cut yourself. And let me give you the one honest safety word on the wood stove, because it matters and because folks get it wrong. The smoke pipe should run up through the roof, straight up, not out through the sidewall and then up. A long sideways run keeps the smoke from drawing out properly, and smoke that backs up into your home is not just a nuisance, it can kill you in your sleep. So you run it up through the roof the way the stove makers tell you to, and you put in a smoke alarm, and you do it right. I will not skip that, because no clever setup is worth a life. For cooking, you have that same wood stove or a small propane burner, or, and here is one worth knowing about, a method that turns your own waste into cooking gas. It is an old technique, older than you would think. They were making gas from rotting matter to light the street lamps in England well over 100 years ago. And farms and families in places like India and the country parts of China have cooked on it for generations. It is called the digester. You put animal manure and food scraps and water into a sealed tank, and the same natural rotting that happens in any compost pile, but sealed away from the air, gives off a gas you can burn, the very same kind of gas the gas company pipes to a stove. And the leftover slurry comes out the other end as good fertilizer for your garden. Nothing wasted. Now I have to be plainly honest here, and in two ways. First, this is not an Amish practice. I will not tell you my grandfather did this, because he did not. It is a real old world technique, and I am showing it to you honestly as that, not dressing it up as something it is not. And second, the safety. That gas is real cooking gas, which means it burns, and it can explode if you are careless with it. A digester must be built right and vented right, and it is the most advanced of these 5 systems, the one to approach the slowest and the most carefully after you have read and learned properly. For most folks starting out, a simple wood stove and a propane burner are the easy, safe way to cook, and the digester is a thing to grow into later, if at all. Honest is better than impressive. The 5th system is food, and you start it before you ever think you need to. This is the one that costs the least and matters the most over time. Raised garden beds, built up off the ground and filled cheap. And here is the clever way the good homesteaders fill them without paying for truckloads of soil. You fill the bottom with rotting logs, old wood, brush, leaves, and grass clippings, and you only put the good soil and the compost on the very top. The wood and the leaves down at the bottom break down slow over the winter and feed that bed for years. It costs almost nothing but the gathering of it. You start a compost pile the very first day, every scrap, every clipping, every bit of waste going to build the rich soil that feeds you later. And a simple greenhouse. You can put up a small hoop greenhouse for a couple $100 in an afternoon, which lets you start your plants early and stretch your growing season out at both ends, and even keeps a tender thing like that digester warm enough to work through the cold months. A few $100s in beds and a greenhouse, started early, and within a season or two, you are growing a real share of your own food, and the grocery bill, like the others, starts to shrink away toward nothing. Now let me add it up honestly for you, the way the old people would, plain. Cheap rural land, a few acres, a few $1,000 to $10,000 depending on where you go, a little cabin shell, $6,000 to $10,000, a solar setup for a small home, $3,000 to $6,000, water catchment, under $1,000, a wood stove, $1,000 to $3,000, garden beds and a greenhouse, a few hundred, and sanitation, a simple composting toilet which keeps the waste dry and turns it slowly into soil, runs only a few $100s and needs no costly septic system and no sewer hookup at all. Add it all together, and yes, for a person willing to go where the land is cheap and to live modestly, it comes in around $25,000. Land and home and water and power and heat and food paid for once. And after that, the bills that drain your neighbors every month simply do not come to your door. Not because you cheated anyone, but because you never plugged into them in the first place. Now I want to take a moment because this is the part that matters, and it is bigger than dollars. Think about what that monthly stack of bills really is. It is not just money. It is a leash. Every month you must produce a certain number of dollars, or the lights go off, and the water stops, and the heat dies. And so you are tied to a job you may hate, in a place you may not love, because the bills do not stop, and they are not yours to control. The power company sets the price. The water company sets the price. You pay or you go dark. That is dependence, and most folks have lived in it so long that they cannot even see it anymore. They think it is simply how life is. The 5 systems I just showed you are not really about saving money, though they surely do. They are about cutting the leash. A family that catches its own water and makes its own power and heats with its own wood and grows its own food and owns its own small home, free and clear, that family cannot be put in a corner. The price of power could double and it would not touch them. The job could end and the lights would stay on. That is not about being cheap. That is about being free. And here is the honest truth about who profits from the other way. No villain forces you onto the grid. It is quieter than that. The whole modern arrangement is simply built so that every basic need comes to you as a monthly bill from someone who profits by sending it. And it has been that way so long that doing for yourself feels strange now, even backward. But there is no money in a man who catches his own rain and burns his own wood. Nobody can bill him, so nobody advertises it, and nobody teaches it. And a whole nation slowly forgot that it was ever even possible. My people never forgot, because we never plugged in to begin with. I will tell you about a young couple who did this, an English pair, city folk, who bought 8 acres 2 townships over from us for less than the price of a new truck. The first summer they lived in a wall tent, and I will not pretend it was easy on them. The wife told my Esther she cried the first cold night. But the man was stubborn in the good way, and by fall they had a little cabin shell set down and closed in, and a row of totes catching the rain off the roof, and 4 solar panels on a frame in the yard. The second winter they were warm on wood they cut themselves off their own back acres. And the wife told Esther a thing that has stayed with me. She said the strangest part was not the work. It was the quiet in her chest when the mail came and there was no bill in it. She said she had not known, all those years in town, how much of her worry had just been the bills, until the month they stopped coming. That is the thing money cannot quite describe. They are not rich people, they are free people, and there is a difference, and you can feel it on them when you sit at their table. And you do not have to do all 5 at once. You do not have to do it in 30 days, the way the videos all promise. Start with 1. Buy the cheap land, or set the rain barrel under the downspout, or build the 1 garden bed. Cut 1 leash, and then the next, as you are able. That is how it is really done, not in 1 heroic month, but 1 honest step at a time. So here is what I want you to do. If this stirred something in you, start by looking, really looking, at what land actually costs in the rural parts of your own state, the parts folks just drive past. You may be surprised what a few acres still costs out where the ground is cheap. And look hard at your own monthly bills. Add them all up for a year and see what that leash is really costing you. That number, more than any other, is usually the thing that wakes a person up. Then pick one system and learn it deep before you spend a dollar. I have done whole videos on the solar and the water, and I will be doing more on each of these: the wood heat, the food, the simple cabin. This today was the map of the whole journey. The single steps come after. Tell me down in the comments, which of the 5 would you start with? The land, the water, the power, the heat, or the food? And tell me what your monthly bills add up to across a year, because I think the number will surprise you and everyone reading it too. I read every single one, and the things you all share are the reason I keep doing this. Next time, I am going to take just the first and the most important step of the whole thing: finding and buying cheap rural land the right way. What to look for and what to avoid, so that you do not sink your savings into a piece of ground that cannot grow food or catch water or pass the rules. It is the very foundation the other 4 systems all stand upon. Until then, cut one leash, take one step, and remember that the people who built this country with their hands knew things we are only now just starting to remember.